Independent Television. AIT, sharing the African experience.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Kaakaki on Africa Independent Television, AIT. I am Adora Oyencher.
And I am Senami Ohiomohai. You are very much welcome to a rather bright and warm Friday morning in Abuja, the Nigerian capital. Nice to have you join us.
How are you?
You
need to do something about this.
Yes, it's happening too often.
All right, today's edition of the show promises so much excitement, and I bet you will be pleased with yourself for waking up with us on Kaakaki this Friday.
Well, before we get into the various segments of the show, let's update you on some developments in the last 48 hours.
Yes, Tsunami, EFCC Chairman Ibrahim Lamodi has been warning civil servants that the Commission would come after them in the war against corruption in Nigeria. Imagine.
This is great news.
Yeah,
of course, you remember when we raised the question of vanishing ethics, in public service, and we said that for every corruption in the public service, there is a civil servant who made it possible.
Definitely.
I bet the EFCC Chairman Ibrahim Lamode heard us or watched that particular edition of Kaakaki.
Yes,
decided to do something about it, because really it's about time.
But remember, we also said that it takes the head to get to the bottom, and perhaps most of them were following instructions as we earlier argued. But anyway,
let's not go into that argument, because I also remember arguing that.
Yes.
You know what is wrong, and whether you have a choice, you always have a choice.
To be good and to be bad.
Exactly.
To be bad.
It's not impossible.
Definitely. All right. We do not intend to paint every civil servant with the same brush, but it's true that you cannot steal public funds, inflate contracts, overvalue any public job if a civil servant does not help you.
Indeed, the warning from the EFCC chairman may be a very crucial step in tackling corruption in Nigeria.
Well, the Association Chambers of Commerce in Nigeria's northern states says the North is losing at least 25 billion naira every day to Boko Haram activities. Talk about loss of money and economical breakdown.
How much is that again?
Honestly, if you look at the money, like during the newspaper review yesterday, even Suleiman Obagaya said that is what we see or hear. That is actually much more than that, because
25 billion naira.
Because in Kano State, the Okada, the motorcycle referred to Okada Association, bringing at least 2 billion naira a day from just that source of income. So you can imagine, if you appropriately calculate it and bring it down every month, you can imagine what they bring in.
Wow, Adora. Even to make it a list of, make it the list, like 25 billion naira every day, that's a lot of money to lose.
A lot.
So people are not just losing lives, people are also losing money. Well, at that rate, what Boko Haram and those sponsoring the sect are doing is simply to destroy the North. There's nothing else to say. The intention is to cripple that part of the country.
It's bad enough that they're saying, okay, deprivation, and then there's no other source of income, and and little or no agriculture thriving there, even the small-scale farmers. And unfortunately, it is the small-scale farmers who are getting the brunt of the brush of the bombings. They're the ones who are being killed. So, when you look at that, they're not only losing money, they're losing people, and they're losing their workforce. But so now, remember we identified a number of Boko Haram's political Boko Haram, religious Boko Haram, like you said yesterday, and social Boko Haram.
Yes, indeed. Well, if they succeed in destroying the North, then the people know who their friends are and who their enemies are.
Indeed. When you look at it, it's incredible. It's incredible.
It's easy
and I
because
wonder.
You know, going by how much Boko Haram spends to inflict injuries on the soul, the mind, and the body of people, it shows you that there's a lot of money being spent. And if Northerners will look critically at those sponsoring these people, it means they definitely do not mean well, because there's no way you mean well for a people and also plan to destroy them.
Definitely.
And come out, you know, two-faced people, and then come out and say, oh, we're behind you, we want government to do this, we want government to do that for you, and all of that and all of that. But it boils down.
Some people say that they don't even know what they want. You know, they haven't actually come out to say what they want, because if you have...
Oh, if you remember that phone call, they said the president knows. I don't know what that means.
So if the president knows, the people meant to pay the price. Come on, come on. I think, you know, like they say, I think it's bad enough that you have... okay, first it was about Western education. Second, it was about, you know, Islamization of the country. Now, what next is going to be the reason? But at the end of the day, innocent people are dying. And I think that's just the problem. And I think along the same economic line, Ademola Ajayi, boss of the National Association of Chambers of Commerce and Agriculture, says the federal government is getting it wrong over its closure of 1,000 illegal refineries in the Delta region.
Wow.
Yeah. You can imagine that. So if that happens, what happens to the Nigerian oil sector? You know, the push for subsidy becomes more insistent. It's incredible. I don't know how, you know, decisions are reached like this. And I always say, it's always fire brigade method. When will we stop fire brigade method in Nigeria?
Well, Ademola Ajayi thinks that what should be done is to organize the refineries and integrate their operation into the petroleum production chain. I hope that helps, really.
But Tsunami, do you remember that during the Civil War, Biafra did not import a drop of refined petroleum products, including aviation fuels?
I remember that. I think Ademola Ajayi's position should be given a second thought. After all, Nigeria is also attempting to organize the illegal miners in the country.
Well, this is the Friday edition of Kaakaki, the African Voice, and this Friday we will be focusing on the death of Nigeria's gold king, Rashidi Yekini. That will be in our interview segment. And as we said at the beginning, today's edition is loaded. Health tips with Adama. Are we having any more cakes today?
You wish.
Travel stories, special features, sports business and sports extra, and of course people, events and places. Do you still have any doubts that Kaakaki is the #1 breakfast show on television? Sorry?
I don't think so.
All right, I don't think so. Okay, so let's get started with the headlines and then let's kick off from there. Stay tuned.
Thanks for staying with us. The embattled president of the Nigerian Court of Appeal, Justice Ayola Salami, has been reinstated as the president of the Court of Appeal exactly 9 months after he was relieved of his duty. The National Judicial Council converged with President Goodluck Jonathan to reinstate him. The NJC had recommended to the president in August 2011 to suspend Salami and subsequently retire him. Guinea security forces used guns, tear gas and truncheons on Thursday to scatter protesters angered by the government's handling of upcoming parliamentary elections. Witnesses said more than 2,000 people had joined the protest, the first of several planned by the opposition, before police charged it, and that at least 2 people were injured with life rounds. Tensions have been rising in the West African state between the administration of President Alpha Conde and the opposition, which has accused him of attempting to consolidate power by pre-rigging the polls in his favor. Eurogroup head and Luxembourg Prime Minister Jean-Claude Juncker was the latest EU leader to meet with the new president-elect of France, François Hollande, on Thursday ahead of Hollande's trip to Berlin to discuss adding growth elements to Europe's fiscal compact. Juncker left without making any comment about his discussions with Hollande at the meeting. Hollande has called for negotiations to add pro-growth instruments such as project bonds to the Budget Responsibility Treaty agreed by European Union leaders in February. Pope Benedict welcomed a 30-member group from the Latin American Jewish Congress to the Vatican on Thursday, saying Jews and Catholics were now good friends. In a welcome speech to leading representatives of the Jewish community in Latin America, the Pope also said Jews and Catholics had become trustworthy partners able to confront all issues. The members of the Jewish Congress held a private meeting with Pope Benedict with discussions focusing on coexistence between the two faiths. Two suicide bombers riding booby-trapped vehicles detonated themselves before the Palestine branch of a public intelligence compound. Sources said the two bombs blasted at around 8 in the morning. The second detonated only 2 minutes after the first one. The head of the UN Observer Mission, Major General Robert Mood, rushed to the scene to examine the area. He said that the blast was horrible, adding that terrorism doesn't pose a solution to the Syrian crisis. Secretary General of the National Palestinian Conference, Khalid Abdul Majid, condemned on Thursday a blast that hit the Syrian capital, killing dozens of people. Majid described the blast as a desperate attempt from Syria's enemy and an attempt to target its people and the leadership that has hung on for 14 months. The comments came after the group attended a news conference held by the organizers of the return convoy that is heading to Gaza in order to deliver medical and humanitarian aid to the coastal enclave. China's Long March 2F, a rocket tasked with carrying the manned spacecraft Shenhong 9 into space, was delivered to the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in the country's northwest Gansu province on Thursday. According to director of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, Kui Jiun, the rocket will first be assembled and tested at the center, where it will later be combined with Shenzhou 9 and receive more examinations and tests. Currently, the assemblies of the Shenzhou 9 and its associated vehicles have all been completed. Rescuers have seen the body of the missing Sukhoi Superjet 100 with over 50 people on board at the slope of a mountain of Gunung Salak in Boga Regency of West Java on Thursday morning. Although Indonesian authorities gave no detailed information about the condition of the plane, several ambulances were released and hospitals have been prepared for the evacuation of the plane crash victims. Some sources say that the accident took place when the plane was trying to descend from the 1,000 feet to 6,000 feet on its way to return to the Air Force Base in East Jakarta. Those were the headline news. Kaakaki B, African Voice, will continue in a moment. When we come back, it will be time for our cover story for today. Stay with us.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
Exciting
and breathtaking
experience
with Kaakaki,
the African voice.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Are you just joining us? Well, you're right on time. It's time now to bring you our cover story for today. And today, this Friday edition, we're talking sports. Andrew Edora.
We're talking about the Festival of Sports, and that's where we're going all the way to Port Harcourt. Anyway, I hope you're in a sportish spirit, or sporty spirit, as some people will call it. Now, in our cover story today, we take a look back at the Nigerian Sports Festival recently held at Port Harcourt. How important is this sports festival to the youth? How can we make the most of a sports festival like this and sporting young talent that can grow to become world champions? Now, how does it also help in building friendships among people of different tribes and cultures, considering that you bring different people of walks of life together? These questions and more are answered by AIT's Abaji Osekwe as he takes us to Port Harcourt in this story. Let's journey with him.
Few years after the Nigerian Civil War, to serve as a means of fostering unity amongst Nigerians. The sports festival is seen as the country's version of the Olympic Games. Though the Games took an unplanned break for a few years due to lack of funds, yet this did not take the shine off the Games when it eventually came back on stream. With the country contending with a plethora of security crises, the 17th National Sports Festival, dubbed Garden City Games 2011, being hosted in Port Harcourt, represents an opportunity to further bind the Nigerian youth together.
Greatest benefit, the National Sports Festival has brought to Nigeria. It has enhanced national cohesion and unity. A lot of friendships have been built.
But the National Sports Festival has been established years back. The kind of integration, integrating the different states, that make up Nigeria. But they come together, unify and identify themselves. Because for some time you do have ethnic problems, but I think the sports festival will be able to at least make all these things. You will make friends with Hausa, you make friends with Yoruba. There's no need fighting each other.
It is a good sporting program in the country because it fosters good relationship between the athletes at different countries, different cities and towns in Nigeria.
Apart from the unity that the Games is expected to bring, a media executive in Rivers State, Celestin Ogolo, says the National Sports Festival provides room for the development of state-of-the-art sporting facilities.
You need to develop your facilities, so it provides an opportunity for you to have sporting facilities to produce more athletes.
Though discovering of talent en masse has been long defeated, this coach is confident that with the array of young athletes taking part at the 17th National Sports Festival, the prospect of discovering new talent at the sports fiesta by initiators of the Games years ago would be achieved once again.
When an athlete performs, showcase his talent, you understand, then the person is chosen to represent Nigeria in the either Commonwealth Games and every other games.
The kind of talent we have in this country, and I'm sure that a lot of talent, great talent to be discovered, and these people can represent Nigeria out there in the world, and that, of course, will be very good for the image of this country.
It's a breeding ground for talent. A lot of potentials have been harvested from the National Sports Festival over the years. A lot of athletes who have made Nigeria proud are products of the National Sports Festival, and many more will be turned out.
This athletics coach from Ilorin says the National Sports Festival is an ideal breeding ground for spring-up relationships that eventually end up in marriage.
We realize some of the athletes even marry each other. Somebody from Kwara State can marry somebody in Rivers State, and Borno State can marry from Lagos State, especially during this National Sports Festival. It has helped a lot.
Celestin Ogolo and Medlin Tado both agreed that the sports festival adds to the socio-economic development of the host state.
Hospitality industry will be very, very positively affected. The transportation industry too. And even in the human development.
And it boosts the economy of the hosting state. At least within that 14 days, there is enough economic activities, to satisfy people of the state.
Some come like these people now. Many of them, they may not have much to do before the festival, but now some of the caterers, they have gotten a lot of markets to operate. So it encourages or it improves economic development of people, especially in the hosting states.
With the National Sports Festival in its third year of competition, Nigerians expect superlative performance that follows world-class standards in all ramifications.
Well, that was interesting, considering I think I liked what the woman said about transport. I like what you said about transport, like we need transportation in Nigeria so that to make it easier for people who are interested in coming to be able to have access, to this place.
Sports festivals are one thing that's one avenue you can use to really capture the essence of youth.
Yes.
Anywhere.
Yes.
You can use that to engage them, to employ them. So, and a lot of them that are involved, when you find youths who want to get involved in sports and they can find a basis and a ground to practice, to train, and probably a coach, you find that they can give it all of their energy. They will give it their all because they don't want to just sit down and do nothing. And so when they have the opportunity to do something, they put all of their heart into it.
Another thing that I understand is that in Nigeria, we don't really have that, forte for scouting for young blood. When I mean young blood, like the energetic one. In Area 1 in Kaakaki, there's a field, and every Friday evening and Saturday evening, I see some very young, talented footballers, young boys, playing their life out every day, come rain, come shine. And he told me that's about the same thing in Kaakaki.
Yeah.
And you see them playing like they were playing international league, like
it was a championship or something.
Is that I play this or I die? And I'm wondering, like, okay, why waste so much time and effort on old players who probably are reaching the end of their career, and invest it in those young ones and see them through, press them through, train them, encourage them, and give them incentives to be able to, because some of them, for them, they prefer to actually do the sport than do education. And maybe also collaborate and, enjoying learning skills with it so that, it's a whole package.
I completely agree with you, Dora. Our society is that which places a whole lot of emphasis on certificates, on what you have, what you read, where you read, titles and all of that. And like you rightly said, I'm not saying it's very important to be educated. Oh, it is very important.
Yes,
but then again, if your passion is in sports or whatever else, skills, whatever skill you want to acquire, and that's where your passion lies. Like I told you of a friend who read biology, who is a biologist, but is into fashion big time, and she's doing great because she's always loved dressmaking. But because her parents said, oh, she's too intelligent to go into the art.
Definitely, and she was
better off doing something else. And well, she did her parents' bidding, but now that she's a person of her own, she went back to her first love. And because she has the passion and the talent, remember what the Bible says, that when God gives you a talent and you don't use it, it's a big shame.
And you know what I think I will recommend to the Nigerian government as well is when you look at the number of child hawkers on the street selling and whether it's pure water, sachet water as is referred to, or granite or whatever, I think this is a good avenue to actually take them on the street, because what you find is that they see these children playing in the field, they look left, they look right, perhaps somebody is meant to be watching over them, they drop their trays and they get into the field and they start, and you wonder, what were you doing selling that pure water? But because I think that it's just they need something else to take their attention away, and I think that parents need convincing to also understand that, listen, your child is talented and we want to be able to help that talent come to the fore.
Dora, what hurts me, I've seen young teenagers from the age of probably about 13, 14 going to football in Nigeria. And there's a particular one I know. I watched that boy's life And he started playing football at the age of 10, continued through secondary school, continued through the university. As we speak, Adora, with the kind of passion, tenacity,
that he has for the sport,
that boy acquired while training, of course, local training, home, training themselves at home. Today, he still never got the opportunity to play for any club, formidable club or anything. And now he's a grown adult. Now he's responsible for training teenagers.
Wow.
He's trying to live his dream through those young children. Because these is just what she said. We don't scout for talent. We don't have, or maybe we do, but we don't have enough scouts. People scouting for talent.
No, we're waiting for them to come back.
I imagine if that young man I just told you about was able to get someone who, if someone had seen him, tutored him and trained him and mentored him, today we'll be talking about probably another Ronaldo
or Messi.
But here we are. Now he's trying to live his dream through another set of young Nigerians who probably will end up like him, God forbid.
I think a sensible recommendation will be to have more academies, football academies. Let these old people who have, or rather the veterans in football who have actually retired from football and who have the means to do this, start an academy for those young ones and run them and train them and mentor them, because from there you will be able to tell the future of Nigeria. Because if you look at Nigerian football, I was listening to Mitchell yesterday, he said he had dropped to 63 in poker, and number
60
to 63, and then number 12 in Africa. So I think that we should stop depending on old bloods and start looking at the young ones and trying to bring what they have.
Adora, if you remember one of the special features we had recently, we had there was this, I think from Kenya, an academy, sponsored by another big Kenyan league.
The seriousness.
And exactly, they had these boys living together, living with one another, doing everything together, washing, cooking, eating, playing football together. And there's, of course, what you expect is a bond and a spirit that binds
live in the same
together,
home.
live in the same home. Now I'm thinking, the coach, the technical coach said, technical manager or advisor said one thing. He said that in Europe, every big club has an academy.
Fantastic.
And those academies, of course, groom young players. And imagine the influx of children in and out of the academy. It will not be difficult for that kind of club to get replacements for their experts and their veterans as they're getting older. The same thing could happen here. We have quite a number of clubs, in Balfaba, Dolphin FC, and the likes, and all of them.
The management of those clubs, you see, some of them will argue that they, from even the local clubs, are not even being well taken care of, and the energy or the incentive or the motivation to actually want to tutor or mentor the younger ones might not even be there. You look at what the story of Rashidi Yakini, how he passed on and all of that. So when we look at Nigerian football, I think that more should be done about it, especially the treatment of our players when they are in service and after service. And that will encourage even younger ones who want to be, football stars.
Yes, indeed, you're right. I just hope that people are listening. You're right about the fact that even the clubs right now do not have enough funding. But then again, this is where private investors come into play and can sponsor a lot of these leagues in Nigeria. And we hope that happens really soon.
Very soon. Well, it's not time for the headline reminders. And when we come back, we have another special feature lurking behind. Just stay with us.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kaakaki,
the African voice.
Welcome back. This is Kaakaki, the African Voice, and we've been talking about, before we went on that break, about football and, of course, scouting for the young ones. But I think we should take it away to Kenya this time again.
Kenya again.
And see what happens.
Our favorite place for special features, really. There are always interesting features coming from
Definitely,
Kenya.
very vibrant people. And
all right, we have another one again from Kenya. This special feature is on Kayaking in Kenya. Kayaking in Kenya. Kayaking, I wonder what that word means.
All right, you just have to wait for it. All right, the Sagana River is providing the exploration, of the sport of canoe kayaking. Canoeing and kayaking is not a very popular sport in Africa, but it is hoped it will soon be and be enjoyed worldwide, of course, and get more support and followership. I wonder if Nigeria has experienced kayaking, but canoeing, I think everybody goes to the sea to fish. Is what they will actually consider to be canoe.
I just remember my childhood experience of going on a canoe. I've told you several times I'm from Badagry, and there's a lot of water around that place, and if you want to move from one town to another, you either go through the bushes, through the forest, through the pathways in the forest, or you canoe. And I remember my mom saying, okay, we have to go on water, and I'm like, no way.
There was a funny joke there back in primary school. I had this classmate who was from Badagry. Well, we didn't know. How we knew was the way the teacher referred to him. He said, like, you come here, but they come here. He said, you have, how did you play it? He said, I'm from Badagry. She said, I know you have coconut head.
Excuse me?
Because they eat too much coconut in Badagry. Too much coconut for their own good. I was like, oh, that's not fair. But from that day on, if I see anybody in Badagry, I'm like, okay, so the first time you said Badagry in my head, I was like, yeah, I know.
Excuse me? And you have yam head, because we eat a lot of yam from the east.
All right,
be careful this Friday. You don't want to go home with...
I knew your festival. Talk about it. Well, I'm just joking. Well, in this special feature, we take you to Kenya to enjoy the sights and experience of athletes of this interesting sport and see how they do it, the do's and the don'ts. Well, try it at your own risk. Let's see what they have for us.
We are in Kenya, a country which has just discovered the world of canoeing and kayaking. In Sagana River, sports lovers have the freedom to raft under rapids that are devoid of crocodiles and other animals that traditionally inhabit water bodies in Africa.
They're looking very good. It's a spectacular location here at Sagana, and we hope for the best. There's 4 people running in competition for the Olympic place for Africa. We've got a Togan, who's the favorite, a Nigerian, a South African, and Titus from Kenya.
Both professionals and amateurs can enjoy the generosity of Africa while at the same time taking part in a sporting event that demands strength and skill. The sport is all about navigating between pickets as fast as possible.
What we're doing is we're going to be sitting in the pool like we have back here in our kayaks, which are similar to what the competitors use. And if they capsize and someone ends up swimming, we will go for the rescue to get them out of the water.
The view of it is fantastic. As you can see, people are enjoying themselves, and it's a really nice location for slalom. Typical of what we're trying to do is to promote canoeing in Africa. And already we've got people from Africa going to the Olympic Games in canoeing.
Is very good. It's been a bit of a challenge. The water levels have changed, and we've got a good result. We've got a silver medal, and we hope that we can put Africa on the map.
Kenya aims to integrate the international circuit and develop this activity as a new form of tourism. For the moment, the sport has only registered a modest success, without a doubt, due to lack of marketing. The sport is suffering from lack of tourism, both local and international. Meanwhile, the Kenyan authorities are making efforts towards the promotion of the sport as well as tourism. They are doing this with the help of the International Federation of Canoe Kayak.
Good idea. Kayaking, canoeing. It's the first time that Kenya is staging this event. And I can say whatever we have done, we have achieved the best we can have.
Canoeing and kayaking can develop into a new sport in the country and make money while preserving a fragile ecosystem.
It's an interesting sport, but you know, when the man capsized and he said, what happens is when people capsize, we send people over to them to rescue them.
To rescue them. And I'm like, yeah.
What if you drown by the time you get there and you say you died canoeing and kayaking? Very interesting.
But it's a very interesting sport. It's something, honestly, maybe it's time for me to be a little adventurous and try it out.
Now you were saying something off camera. You know, when you said that they should come to Nigeria with the kind of
it's not a big deal. Look everywhere. The kind of canoe we have is made from wood and bamboo sticks and all of that, and it still works very well. This is sophisticated, so I'm sure we're safe. Anyway, I'm sure if anything happens, Adama will rush to the rescue.
Oh, definitely. Good morning, Adama.
Good morning. Good morning, Adama.
Good to see you,
Good to see you too. How was your night?
It was so-so. I'm sure my guest would not be very pleased and saying the same thing, because according to him, I had to hustle him out of bed
earlier than usual.
Good morning up there. I hope you had a pleasant night rest, and I hope you're happy and ready to listen to me. I found a treasure yesterday, literally. I attended a nutrition symposium, and this brilliant, handsome gentleman, brilliant, handsome gentleman was giving a lecture on something called programming, and I think you should hear this yourself. It's about children, about babies, so Sanami, you may want to listen closely, along with all of you out there. I have with me the handsome, ageless Professor Philip Olayele Abiodun. Professor Abiodun is a consultant pediatrician and nutritionist for children, and he specializes in gastrointestinal diseases of children. He's been Dean of Medicine in University of Benin so many times, and he has been a Vice Chancellor in Jefferson University, and then he consults for UNICEF and WHO. In fact, his resume, if I said it now, we'll still be sitting here by tomorrow morning. He's done so much. It's good to have you here, Prof.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for missing your sleep this morning.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
One of those things.
One of those things. So let's just go straight. This programming, I was fascinated when you were talking about it. So just, we're not talking about computer programming here, so just tell the people what this programming is about.
Well, we're talking about programming as far as nutrition is concerned and children are concerned. And the concern is that what you are today have been programmed. As far as your weight, height, size, as far as these are concerned, that you might have been programmed from the time you are in the womb and then your first 2 years of life. That is what you eat, what you give your baby today, either in the womb or immediately after birth for the first 2 years, will decide, or is part of what will decide whether your child will become normal weight or obese in future. And this becomes very important because we know the consequences of obesity. This is not the only cause of obesity. The disease of the heart, diabetes, hypertension, which you could develop, which the baby could develop in future as an adolescent and as an adult, might have been programmed.
Hang on, as an adolescent?
Adolescent and then adult.
So you've had patients who are obese and have hypertension and diabetes in adolescent age. Have you had?
Yes. As I said, I'm a pediatrician, and what we now see is that we used to think that obesity and what we call non-communicable disease were problems of developed countries. But now, unfortunately, we are seeing now younger girls, younger adolescents, hypertensive. We used to talk of 2 types of diabetes before, in the past. The juvenile diabetes, which you can develop as a child, and the adult onset diabetes, which you develop when you become an adult. But what we are seeing now is that the children, that younger children or adolescents, are developing this type of diabetes, the adult onset diabetes at an earlier age.
So it shouldn't be adult onset.
Yeah, so we have the type 2, we used to say. And now you hear of people dying at 30, 40 of hypertension, of diabetes and all that, which was not the case in the years past. And what we now know is that some of this, that obesity is becoming a problem in developing countries. We talk of the double burden of malnutrition.
Double burden of malnutrition.
Double burden, because when we talk of malnutrition, people used to think only of undernutrition. But we also now know of overnutrition.
Overnutrition.
So in developing countries now, you have this double burden. That is, people, while we are taking care of the extremes of malnutrition, undernutrition, that is marasmus, kwashiorkor, all these cases you see in the hospital. You also see people being amputated at younger age.
Oh my goodness.
Because of hypertension, because of obesity, and the heart disease, coronary heart disease, called non-communicable disease.
Okay.
So in developing countries, you have this mixture, undernutrition, overnutrition.
So, Prof, I remember in that lecture you also mentioned something about small babies having the propensity to become obese in adulthood.
Yeah. You see, this experience was people started having this experience during in 1944-45 period, now the war period, when they refer to it as the Dutch famine. That is, people in Holland and all those places were made to starve as a result of the war. And they found that children that were conceived during this period of famine, that is where the mothers were made to hunger, that the children developed about 20, 30 years later. Diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. So you will expect that somebody, so people now believe that this was that they were programmed, because there are two theories which you don't want to go into details of, which might be a bit difficult for our viewers, but that is this, that when you are starved in the womb, you get used to keeping the food, whatever comes into you, in certain areas, in what we call vital organs, like the heart, like the brain, and some other places. So when you are at birth, you are now being fed when there is abundance of food. Since you have been used to storing this food in these areas, you continue storing the food in these areas. And that makes you obese.
Obesity
and the obesity now comes later and the consequences of this non-communicable disease, obesity, hypertension, coronary heart disease. So this is what we are now. That was what was noticed. And so in feeding children, we have a lot of low birth weight here, small for gestational age, that is at the time of birth. And in our neonatal units, we have been used to feeding these children, wanting them to become fat.
Because they're small. I mean, Tsunami's baby is so big, I want my baby to be big too.
So you see all the pictures of the company's food
and the diapers,
of children,
chubby children.
Wanting them to, so we have now found that breast milk is what we propagate for children. And that is the best. Nobody can challenge it. It must be. We mustn't make any effort at all to substitute breast milk with anything. We now found that children that were breastfed were not as fat as these children on formula. Then we started wondering why. We thought it was a normal thing. But nature has its way of doing things.
Of course.
When God creates something, he has his own reason. So it was not that these children were deficient, but God had a reason for making us to grow at that rate gradually, not to become so chubby so fast. And when people looked into it, we found that the protein that was in the cow's milk, this cow, was the major cause. The protein content of the cow's milk was much, much higher than the protein content of the breast milk. But it's not that our own breast milk is deficient. It is because it contains the essential amino acids. That these are things that make up protein. Protein is made up of amino acids. And these are essential ones for your development. That is whey protein. Whereas the cow's milk contains more of casein. That is, it hasn't got enough essential amino acids. So for it to match cow's human milk, the companies continue to put in more protein.
So you get big.
Were dangerous because they used to. When you take protein, this high amount of protein, you have insulin is being produced, and insulin makes food to go into the cells. It makes fat to develop fat and all the others.
So you, madam, you have no time to breastfeed your baby. The breasts are there. Just drink enough fluid and give the baby the milk. Stop giving cow milk to the baby.
There's no way. So we have found that this insulin and insulin growth factors, we call them, make this baby chubby. So what we are now saying is that, so the commercial companies, they have now tried to develop a sort of formula that will contain less of this protein. And then they put in what we call alpha-lactalbumin. That's an essential protein that has a lot of essential amino acids into it to try to mimic the breast milk. Have you understand what I'm saying? So you reduce the protein, but try to put in the type of protein that is in breast milk into the soya formula.
But it's not the same thing. Breast milk
is always best.
Remains the ultimate.
So the children who take this type of new formula grow at a
faster rate.
Not as a slow pace, but still not as good as the breast milk.
Well, ultimately, what we're saying here to you, two things. First of all, if your baby is healthy and small, it's okay. Feed your baby normally. Don't force feed this baby. Don't overfeed it.
Small, not too small.
Not too small. At a normal rate. It doesn't have to be kind of baby that no one wants to help you hold. And secondly, if you continue insisting on not breastfeeding your baby, I'm going to get a bunch of baby cows to come and suck on your breast. Maybe that is going to inspire. let's send some into the homes and into the hospitals to suck on the women's breast. Maybe that's going to solve it. What do you think, Sanami?
I don't know how that's going to work out.
No. But it doesn't sound good. Breastfeeding. What does it take to make women breastfeed? We've been singing this like an old song. Breastfeed, breastfeed, breastfeed. 6 months at least, exclusively. Just try, make the sacrifice because it affects the future of the child.
Adama, I am happy that the doctor is here saying it, and I really hope that mothers are listening because for some strange reasons, mothers just believe that their children need to be big to be healthy, and that is not necessarily so. You know, my 2-year-old daughter is very small, and I know that there is nothing under the sun that she doesn't eat.
If the child is healthy, that's all.
She eats beans, she eats all sorts, and so I'm confident knowing that her
baby is healthy,
is well prepared and is balanced, and I'm not worried.
So now I think, Adam, I think a lot of women, have become cosmopolitan, especially with the digital age and fashion and all of that, and they feel that breastfeeding will sag the boobs to on time, and their husbands won't find them attractive, and they'll
I think between being a beautiful woman with a grown-up child and grandchildren, or being a beautiful woman in her 40s whose child is dead from obesity or diabetes or hypertension.
Yeah, so you choose.
Die young.
Yeah.
Grow fast, die young.
The shorter your life.
The shorter your life, yeah.
Okay, so they have a choice to make. Either you want to grow healthy children, or you want children who will bury,
who will die young,
you will bury, and rather than they live long enough to bury you and even bear you grandchildren.
This is becoming a really big emergency. People out there, please, ladies, you need to make the effort. Breast milk, first 6 months, breast milk, and just learn how to, because yesterday too, someone pointed out about knowing how to breastfeed properly, because some women said, oh, what if the baby rejects the milk? That some babies reject the milk, and she said something about it's because she don't know how to place the nipple properly and breastfeed the baby. Hey, don't you dare ask me to demonstrate how to breastfeed the baby properly. Not on national TV. And moreover, there's no baby here, so just talk to your pediatrician, talk to your doctor, and just try to find out how to position the nipple properly and breastfeed the baby properly. Because if you don't breastfeed the baby properly and the baby is suckling but not getting any milk, he gets frustrated, and that's why he keeps refusing the breast. That's what the problem is.
So programming is just that what you will be has been programmed.
From in there.
You see children, all these are young children now that get pregnant, they are anemic, they are nutritionally deficient. They will give birth to nutritionally deficient children, anemic children. If they have the vitamins, all these other things are deficient in them, will go over to the children. And then we will now try to pump everything to them later, immediately in the first 2 years of life. That may result in what will happen in future. So what will be in future might have been programmed, predetermined at this idea. That's what the program is all about.
Yeah, programming. Sounds interesting. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Professor Philip Olayele Abiodun, consultant pediatrician from the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. He is one of the foremost in pediatrics and nutrition for children, and also specializes in their gastrointestinal matters. I have a tradition in this place. I don't let any guest go without it. Give me a high five, Doc. A high five. Good to have you here. I see you on Monday. It's Friday. Can you believe?
Yes,
yes. You have to leave town. I would have taken you dancing, but you're leaving town.
It's Friday. It's time to let your hair down and relax.
Would you program the dancing and all?
Okay, I was just talking about letting your hair down and relaxing over the weekend. And Adora reminded me that Doctor has no hair.
No, Doctor has no hair.
Not a bad light. Not a bad light.
All right, thank you so much, Adama. Thank you, Doctor. It was a pleasure having you on.
Adama, thank you for the cake yesterday. It was very nice.
And she's greedy. She wants more. She's asking for more.
No, I didn't say that. Just
maybe the next time, Professor.
Yes, we will get lucky next time.
Okay.
All right.
If you program it early enough,
then it's possible.
You get your cake.
Brainwashing. All right. Thank you, Dr. also for coming. Thank you, Adama. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow, that was really, really educational. I was going to ask a question to Doc because a lot of mothers I know use breast pumps these days, and it worries me because I think that actually takes away the bonding between mother and child. Because often you do it. It's okay if you're doing it. You're going to work and you have a nanny and you need to express. But even when they're at home. Seriously, even when they're at home, they rather express breast milk using breast pump and just feed. And I'm wondering, okay, I'll tell one of my friends, what happened to you, just breastfeeding the normal, like a beg, and it becomes really rampant.
I am surprised because I remember when I had my first child, he couldn't suckle, just like Adama was saying earlier. Yes. It was difficult for him to suckle, and I had to express milk and feed him in a cup and a spoon. And it wasn't pleasant. I didn't like it, so I'm wondering why someone will prefer, someone will prefer to breast. They have this very mechanized breast pumps that use batteries. So what they do is you just latch it on, and then they press go, and it just puts pressure on the breast areas and brings the breast milk out by itself. Oh God, we're talking about breast milk on there. And just brings it out by itself. You don't have to do so they just do that and they bring it at just the right amount that they want. But I think even the use of electronized breast pump, it's really dangerous. We're talking about cancer. And we're talking about light rays, exactly, radioactive exposures. But then again, Adora, I don't know, because I think mothers are getting it all wrong. Definitely. Just like you said, when you breastfeed your child, the way nature... The bonding. There's a bond. Have you watched a child suckling and breastfeeding? He looks straight into your eyes, and while sucking, he's smiling and rubbing his head because he's bonding with his mother, And I don't know why any mother will want to lose out on that, or want to... anyway. Lose out on that. But anyway, that's... Tonight we'll take you on breastfeeding lecture later, so take off on the special feature. Please. All right, we have another special feature, and a special feature on employment for deaf people. It's still a good morning to you, and you're still watching the Thank God It's Friday edition of the program. It's Kaakaki, the African Voice. There are over 500,000 deaf people in South Africa. Employed Deaf, an NGO, is helping deaf people get employment in ShopRite, one of the largest supermarket chains in Africa. It is hoped that these special people can fit into the society like anyone else, living for themselves. I'm curious. Let's see how they manage that.
Have no employment. Organizations like Employ Deaf or eDeaf were started with the aim of altering these mind-numbing statistics.
eDeaf started in 2007. Nazreen Bana, a deaf lady, a deaf leader herself, with myself having a big deaf background, most probably the biggest deaf family in South Africa, wanted to bridge the gap between the working environment and the unemployed deaf community. So we do it in the way that we empower the deaf person to train themselves and put them into places and provide the environment where they work with the necessary sensitization. eDeaf's vision is to empower the deaf community. By empowering the community, you're getting the trainers to be deaf themselves. The best trainer is the one that speaks in the same language as the person they're training. Wholesale retail gave us the opportunity. Checkers, ShopRite Checkers gave us the equipment, the training material. That we adapted to make it deaf-friendly. The training was done by deaf people. The assessment thereof was done by deaf people, by the eDeaf team, with the assistance of the ShopRite experienced trainers.
With eDeaf screening potential and suitable candidates, the learnerships for the pilot program in Gauteng was ready to commence. Candidates were identified and put through a 4-month sales skills program. The ShopRite Checkers provided learning material which were adapted accordingly.
Prerequisites for entry was that they had to have an N1 qualification, so they had to be able to read and write, which normally means that you have to have a grade 9 or the old standard 7 qualification. Well, the first part of the course that they go through was to work in the receiving area of the store, so they physically had to receive goods. They had to record the invoices that they received the goods on, and they captured it, measured it against the orders, etc. So there was a bit of administration involved in it. Then they had to work on the actual sales floor of the supermarket, where they had to do merchandising, maintaining of stocks, controlling of prices, price identification tags. I think which one was probably the biggest challenge for them. Oh, we had 40 learners that participated in the program. 38 were successful. We kind of lost 2, which is kind of sorry. But then, you know, we're very happy with the 38 that we've got left in the program. They've still got to finish off the rest of the NQF2 training schedule. But you know, there's tremendous enthusiasm amongst these people. I mean, they are so excited within the environment that they're working in. That's great to have them out here. And you know, and when we did the handing over of the certificates on the 19th of May, there were some of them that categorically stated with a big smile on their face that they're not going to stop until they're a bronze manager or regional manager within Shoprite or Checkers.
The success of the project depended on a trio of organizations: the Wholesale Retail CETA, the Shoprite Checkers Group, and EDEF all lend support and foster the project.
Well, I like to work at Shoprite Checkers simply because I've learned so many things. You know, and, you know, I make my supervisors happy. I just want to work and do my best and learn about everything and do my best for Checkers.
The greater part of this project is not only the change in employment opportunities for the deaf community, but also the perceptions of the deaf community. As part of EDEF's holistic service to the employer, the work...
All right, we sincerely apologize. We couldn't bring you the full package of that report. An interesting report, you would agree.
Yes, and, you know, it's very pleasant to actually understand that, you know, they can actually dialogue using sign language. This is what I studied in sign language, and then I think halfway through the learning, I was like, okay, you know what, this is tedious. But it is quite interesting. But it's top of the hour. I think we have to take off.
Yeah, it's inside Nigeria now. Thank you for staying with us. The embattled president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Ayola Salami, has been reinstated as the president of the Court of Appeal. Exactly 9 months after he was relieved of his duty, the National Judicial Council converged with President Goodluck Jonathan to reinstate him. The NJC had recommended to the president in August 2011 to suspend Salami and subsequently retire him. Justice Dalhatu Adamu was appointed immediately as the acting president of the court, although the suit filed by Salami challenging his suspension is still pending before the Court of Appeal, following reference to the court by the Federal High Court in Abuja. Nigeria's Vice President Namadi Sambu has invited the terror groups killing and maiming Nigerians to hold their fire as government is ready to discuss with them. The Vice President was speaking at the National Symposium tagged Islam and Peaceful Coexistence in a Contemporary Multi-Religious Society, organized by an Islamic organization, NASFAT. The Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar the 101th, also called on Muslims to live in accordance with the peaceful teachings of Islam.
Allah himself has placed on us. We must therefore strive as an ummah to discharge this honorable responsibility seriously and most effectively.
And God enjoins you to be peaceful, to be tolerant, to be kind, and to be compassionate to your family and to your neighbors.
It is clear today that the terrorist attacks are clearly against all segments of our society. I must use this opportunity to call on all the groups to cease fire and come forward for a dialogue.
It's obvious now that Islam doesn't say kill or fight against those who do not believe in Islam. We are told in these explicit terms, if you fight or kill someone who is not fighting you, it's as if you've killed humanity and you will not enter Jannah.
The governors of the 36 states of the Federation rose from a meeting in Abuja on Wednesday condemning in very strong terms the current level of violence and insecurity across Nigeria. Chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, Rotimi Amechi, says that the position of his colleagues in a 3-point communique issued at the end of the meeting.
Lives are not lost, and within the required standard of political maturity, I think that all other things should be allowed to the police.
The Chairman Senate Committee on Interior, Abubakar Bagudu, says there is need to address security lapses in the country. The Chairman made this known Thursday when the committee paid an annual oversight visit to the Ministry of Interior. Abubakar Bagudu said the Senate Committee supports other security agencies to tackle challenges in the country.
Part of the security challenge we are facing in Nigeria today is primarily because there are gaps in the way internal security matters are coordinated. I remember remarking that the role of traditional rulers, the role of religious rulers, the role of civil society and community leaders is very, very important in addressing our current security challenge.
The Minister of Interior, Abba Moro, said the use of biometric device will help keep proper surveillance at the borders.
On the part of the Ministry of Interior, we have also renewed our resolve to ensure that the proper networking and the building of appropriate synergy with border security agencies to ensure the internal security of this country.
Morris said the poor state of prisons is a major obstacle that the passage of Prison Act will reduce the number of inmates awaiting trial. That's Inside Nigeria. Kaakaki, the African Voice, continues in just a moment. When we come back, it will be time to go into our interview segment. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us.
Serious?
I wanted to avoid it, but I thought of running away.
You thought of me? What are you doing here? David! You want your game man to stop me from entering your house?
I want to let you know that I will win the competition.
When the thunder strikes, the earth shakes. There comes confusion, detestation, deception, disbelief, love, and dismay. Trust in man is deadly. Your close friend, your worst enemy. The Burning Spear. Burning Spear, a story of multi-identity, suspense-filled, educative, and entertaining. The Burning Spear.
Come on, let's go.
Nowhere. It's just a bunch of prejudices about the different communities, but nothing substantial about the cause of the conflict.
It is becoming expensive to have you there.
If it was you that lost your brother, would you do it?
Family ties, a thorn in the flesh.
To be seeing my daughter every day is not small money.
The daughter, when he's concerned,
my pocket is never afraid. Oh, well, I will do everything. And then I sure.
This guy, yeah, I don't like anything that has to do with jazz. Like, come, you be like say hungry, never. Why are you rich, Abby? You know nothing about football, so there's no point asking.
Organizer, come on, not your body. This one not the couple.
Ah! Oh, well, see, baby, it's not my money.
Between three nurses and a doctor, find out what matters in Clinic Matters.
And I wonder what's time for us to go straight into the interview segment where we're talking sports this morning, especially on Rashidi Yekini. Now, Nigerians woke up on Saturday, May 5th, 2012, to the very sad story that Rashidi Yekini, the Nigerian soccer striker of all times, had died the previous day.
It was a sad blow indeed. Rashidi Yekini, who was fondly called Yeking because of his goal-scoring proficiency, was born in Kaduna on October 23rd, 1963.
Yekini became the symbol of Nigeria's soccer superpowers as the country made its mark on the World Cup football stage in the United States in 1994.
Yekini scored Nigeria's first FIFA World Cup final goal. This was in the match against Bulgaria.
Well, Yekini years also saw Nigeria win the 1994 Nations Cup, where he topped the goals chart.
This is in addition to Yekini being the first Nigerian to win the prestigious award of the African Footballer of the Year.
It is therefore true that Yekini was a prized national resource, a symbol of national success, a national image maker of great value.
But what premium did Nigeria put on this resource of great value?
This question becomes very necessary following reports that Rashidi Yekini died in circumstances that were unbefitting of an achiever of his standing.
There were reports that he died poor, yet some reports said he was mad, and his lawyer said he was beaten, chained, and forcefully taken away to where he eventually died. What a way to die.
Wow.
What a way to go.
The way Rashidi Yekini ended raises a number of questions. What premium does Nigeria put on its resources, no matter in which sector? How does the end of Rashidi Yekini impact on young people who aspire to play for the country? Did Nigeria's soccer administrators value the contributions of Yekini to the growth of football, or did they see him as dispensable once he had served their purpose? These are the questions we will seek answers to this Friday. And joining us in the studio, we have Austin Mbolu, former image maker and FA. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Mr. Mbolu. All right. First of all, you had an introduction, Rashidi, the way Rashidi Yekini died. The one that boggles my mind the most is the fact that he was beaten and chained and dragged to where he eventually died. I'm wondering, is it that the NFA or the footballing world in Nigeria had no idea Rashidi's state of mind or his situation or health, his health level before he died? What happened? How did you take his death?
Well, I think quite a lot of number of issues came to play, and that is primarily predicated on the fact that how we treat our past sportsmen is a major issue in this country. That is why majority of us are not surprised when at their prime, majority of them decide to take the nation or hold the nation, hold stage, particularly at critical moments. They want to extract every pound they can to be able to guarantee their future. You see, unfortunately, somebody like Yekini, who has become a legend of some sort, when you talk in terms of Nigeria's soccer preeminence in the continent and the exploits in the world, this is one player that had contributed
immensely towards Nigeria becoming a phenomenal nation at a particular point in time. Unfortunately, when his career came to an end, it becomes like the proverbial expendable material. Having used him, the best bet is just to turn your back on them. The point remains that yes, Nigeria as a nation cannot, as a matter of fact, take care of any player from inception to the end of his life. But the point remains that there must be some form of welfare packages that are lined out to guarantee the future of players who have actually committed their best to the nation. You see, Rashidi's story is more or less something that draws tears from the eyes of most Nigerians, because at a particular point in time he needed help. There was no help forthcoming. Unfortunately, a lot of people didn't know precisely what he was going through at that particular point in time.
But so didn't anyone try to inquire? Because someone like Rashidi Yekini, not being seen, you know, in sporting activities when Nigeria is playing football, not in the stadium. I mean, people should have been curious as to where is this man? What is he up to? What is he doing?
Yes, a lot of argument has been postulated. First and foremost, one fact you cannot rule out is that it depends on his person. He is not... Rashidi has never been known to be a good mixer. I don't want to use the word that he's a social recluse, but the point remains that by nature he is an introvert of some sort. He's a very private person. Being a private person, he seldom mixes with people, and he seldom comes out with whatever he's going through. It has been a problem he has right from the onset. Even in camp, in those good old days, you discover that he seldom mixes with his colleagues. When these agitations are on, agitations for maybe increase in bonuses or payment or whatever, you seldom find somebody like Yekini in their midst.
All right, I'll hold in that frame of thought, and you know, I'll draw from your point of view saying that, you know, he doesn't mix, but regardless, you know, Nigerians should have done something. Let me relate it to the death of Julius Bikondo, who also died the same week, Senegal's player for Teranga Lions, and he died at 54. Yekini died at 48. Now, Yekini had 58 appearances and had 37 goals. Sekonda had 73 appearances and scored 20 goals for his club, and he was a song hero. And when I mean that, he was celebrated and taken care of. He has an academy after his name, in his name, for young players. Now let's go back to young players, aspiring young players in Nigeria. With this sort of treatment, do you think that this is inspiring for any young aspiring soccer player to want to play soccer and represent Nigeria?
Well, first and foremost, to be honest with you, I don't think it is something that is worthy of emulation or worthy of inspiring anybody. Because the point remains that the moment you are not sure of your future, if you have this feeling that, look, your future cannot be guaranteed, the tendency is for you to resort to unorthodox means to actually extract as much pound of flesh as you can while the going is right. You see, this is actually a time for us to actually sit back and kind of review critically what has been going on. It is a time for us to begin to think of how best to actually improve the welfare of our past players. There's no two ways about that. Whoever has been able to serve his nation, there should be some modicum of packages he should be entitled to in terms of welfare. And we must evolve a better welfare packages that will guarantee them that, look, at the end of your career, Nigeria will always be there for you. Unfortunately, this appears to be one of the things that is missing. But we must not lose one fact, and that fact is that when you actually need help as a past player, you will be in a better position to really come out to actually voice whatever situation you are going through, and at the same time be in a better position to make yourself available. For goodness sake, take for instance the case of Yekini. I have heard from a number of sources efforts that were made actually by government officials, the Football Federation, to actually render some form of help. But because of the situation he's going through, there are allegations that he declined while members of his family shielded him from having access to some of these players, some of these assistants. One of the most prominent and noticeable is somebody like Governor of Lagos State, a person of Raji Fashola, who we all know is a good football lover. He did make some efforts actually sent some of his officials to actually find out what Rashidi is actually going through when the story break that he is having challenges. But unfortunately, he declined, and members of his family, in turn, shielded him from actually benefiting from some of these assistance. By so doing, you find it difficult to actually begin to say, find out who to blame. But the point remains that if there's a system on ground that people can actually resort to when the critical moment arises, definitely we won't be where we are. You know automatically that, look, you have so and so thing that you need to just walk out and assess them. Even if you don't need to go out begging, definitely you know this is my right and I'm entitled to it.
All right, we'll just hold you there. We'll take a short break because our next guest is in the studio and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
So after I finish cooking, I click
Africa.
Sitting at the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Good ball in. Still with Morocco. Surely.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kaakaki,
the African voice.
Now listen. The law is now beyond argument that the effect of a nullification of a thing, not necessarily an election, the effect of nullification of a thing is to completely wipe out, obliterate, remove, undo, erase, or render it ineffective.
Why must Nigerians pay the crime that has been perpetrated by the Cabal?
Of course, you're on to Kaakaki, the African Voice. We're talking about Rashidi Yekini and, of course, how he was treated well in active service. We have our next guest in the studio. His name is Kennedy Okara, and a sports analyst. Thank you for joining us, Kennedy.
Thank you
very much. And we also have Austin Mbolu, former image maker, NFA, if you're just joining us. Thank you very much for still staying with us.
Thank you.
Now, you were saying something just before we went on break on, you know, if the treatment of Rashidi Yekini is good enough for any aspiring young Nigerian footballer to want to play for his country.
Yes, definitely. My take on this is that, first and foremost, I will advise the sports ministry in conjunction with Nigeria Football Federation to take a step further by instituting what I may classify to be a comprehensive welfare package that will go a long way in guaranteeing that the future of some of these ex-stars are not just allowed to go down the drain.
Something like a retirement plan, considering the fact that they serve the nation.
Yes, the truth remains that majority of them are professional players. You expect that they will be in a better position to take care of their future. But the point remains that as a nation, there must be a way of showing gratitude to some of these players. That look, yes, we appreciate all your contributions, because it's not easy. Out of 100 and something million, some of these people are singled out at a particular point in time to don the national jersey. So there must be a form of reward that will actually be commensurate with the level of contributions they have been able to make to the service of their fatherland.
All right, Kennedy, thanks for joining us. Now, we've been talking about Rashidi Yekini, and I'm sure you have your own story. So first of all, let me ask you, how did you take the death of Rashidi Yekini? Because the truth is, it has created kind of an outrage in many Nigerians to hear how he died. One of which is the fact that people, there's a news that he was a madman, chained and beaten and dragged to where he eventually died. Now that's something that really annoys a lot of people. How did you take the news of his death?
Well, the death of Rashidi Yekini, just like any other death, is a kind of story or news that never goes down well with any right discerning person. And then again, being Rashidi Yekini and who he was, if I may use that word, okay, it's a very, very sad moment for most soccer-loving Nigerians, considering what Rashid done for the country in the past. But you see, when we talk about the outrage and other issues that arose after Yekini died, the outrage, the shouting, the this, there are some issues that arises for determination here. And some of those issues are, first of all, if Yekini was sick, since when was he sick? And then two, some people are saying government neglected him. I even heard, let me, if I may quote, Chief Ondibinde said the country disappointed him, they were never there for him. But on that light, I'd like to differ a bit, because this issue of Yekini's sickness, I think I have the privilege of like knowing one or two things about it when this whole matter came up. Mind you, like some people may want to blame the NFF. There was a time the NFF made a deliberate attempt when they heard this same rumor, just like you and I heard it, that Yekini was not well. That in fact he was, you know, going around like a... The NFF, I think, delegated people to go there to find out, and I think it was covered, I think, by this station or something like that. I'm not too sure. After trying fruitlessly to like get to Yekini, his compound was deserted, big as it was, everything. Then at long last, he appeared and said he was okay, that he was going to make a statement when the time comes. Okay, and from any discerning mind, Yekini then was looking okay. Then secondly, the issue of the system abandoning him. Mind you, being the first person that scored in the World Cup for us, right? Yekini was approached to be our ambassador for 2010 World Cup, which he turned down, right? And I was reading in the papers how Ike Shorumo made several attempts by virtue of what the NFF sent him to do, and he refused. And then few weeks or months before he died or something like that, according to the sister, this is a testimony of his own blood sister, that Yekini was burning his certificates, his clothes and so on and so forth. And part of the effort they made was that the then Oyo State Commissioner of Police, I think that was 2 years ago or something like that, they went to report to him and then said they couldn't get Yekini to get medical help. They went to report to him, which he sent his men to go and bring Yekini. And when Yekini came there, he was very, very okay, according to what the paper said. Told the commissioner that, look, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with me. Even again started dashing money to the officers around and so on and so forth. And the CP was dumbfounded. The sisters didn't know what to do. So like now, if at all Yekini wasn't treated by the way he was supposed to be treated, I want to say, I don't want to put the blame directly on the doorsteps of government, because they say knock and the door shall be open, ask and you shall receive, right? Maybe the family didn't do what they should have done. A great player like Yekini, and then mind you, let's get something clear. It's not as if Yekini was living in penury or died in penury. According to the sister, when Yekini took ill, that it really, really got worse, they didn't have much money. They went to his account where they knew he had money, and there was no money in the account. And mind you, Yekini has 3 daughters from 3 different women. And these kids and their mothers all live abroad. The one in London, the other one in Switzerland. I think he was in Switzerland with them. Okay? So it's not as if Yekini was a destitute or something like that. Yes, maybe, agreed, Yekini may have been sick. But what effort did the people around him make to like bring the attention of Nigerians and government? NFF went out of their way to look for Yekini. Not once, not twice. So yeah, there may be outrage for those who do not know.
But do you think that the possibility, because from what you have, the story you have just told, it sounds like it was a mental illness.
Yes.
1 minute he's fine.
Yes. Lucid interval.
Exactly. He's not. So could it be that could have been a situation that arose from frustration, because sometimes when people are frustrated and depressed, you know,
well,
it
actually,
affects them psychologically.
Yeah, I understand. But knowing Rashidi Yekini's antecedents, when Yekini was in the Super Eagles, that was the days of the Super Eagles mafia. Keshi, Siasia, Chidinwanu, those were the ones running things. Yekini didn't belong to any mafia. Okay, his job was to come, and I think Mr. Osman, you are in government, you are then, okay. Yekini would just come, play his ball, and then go. Issue of socialization and so on and so forth, he was not interested in the everyday politics going on. So right from time, maybe that was why help didn't come when it should have, because the Yekini, the administrators, and the average Nigerian that knows him very well knows is a withdrawn kind of person. So you don't know when he's happy, you don't know when he's moody, you don't know when he's sick, you don't know when he's well. He doesn't say much. He just comes there, get the job done. Somebody was telling me the other day that maybe it's because he's not well educated. I said, no, don't tell me that. Yekini may not have been lettered, but he is enlightened, and then he speaks well. I've heard him speak severally. Okay, so he knows how to get his job done. So issue of these things that people are raising, yes, it's so sad that Yekini didn't get help when he should have gotten help, because if he got that help, maybe, just maybe, Yekini would have still been alive by now.
All right, okay, Kennedy, what you've said quite differs from what, Osman has quite retreated, because he agrees about the declining state of the government's part in playing in soccer's life, why they have been inactive and out of active football. Now, let's look at it from this point of view. Yekini did not just play for Nigeria. He played for international clubs, he played for Zurich, he played for where he scored 90 goals. He played for Olympiacos, he played for so many clubs. Now, some people worry about this trend in Nigerian football, especially the young players, that especially Nigerian footballers consider themselves first, when it comes to representing their country, especially now in this day and age. And seeing the trend the death of Yekini has taken and the effect on the people, would you argue that younger players will not be even more encouraged now to look outward rather than inward?
Well, you must look at it from one perspective or two different perspectives, because one, yes, the attitude of our sports administrators generally, right, it leaves so much to be desired when you talk about the welfare of our athletes, then narrow it down to football, which is the main topic here today. Then when you look at it, right, it is true. If that is what Osman Ngolu said here, he is very, very correct. So much more needs to be done, okay? But I want to look at it from this perspective, right? Even like the artists too, you see them when they were active, they were making so much money, and then when a little calamity befalls them, okay, they have nothing to fall back on. It is those people, like in the United States of America now, they're trying to, after this saga of Dennis Rodman, he went bankrupt. Yes. The system now said, okay, let us make a deliberate attempt. Out of these people's earnings, let us set something aside for them, whether they like it or not, so that when they are no longer in active service, they will always have something to fall back on. Check out most of those athletes in America, the boxers, the footballers, the American footballers, and so on, after their careers, 10 years down, and they are nowhere to be found. So these are some of the structures that I think our sports administrators should put in place. Like, look at it. It's so appalling in Nigeria that even when the player is still active, as little as something like an injury. Look at Onyeka Chiapam. Onyeka Chiapam is one of the best defenders we have. But for some years now, he's been battling with injury. Recurring injury. The same thing with Obafemi Martins. Where are they? Nobody is even making inquiries about them. Nobody. Now, at the end of the day, when they struggle tooth and nails through their own personal effort and that of their club to get themselves back on the feet again, they start getting celebrated. Look at it. John Utaka has just been invited again. Okay, few years ago when he was suffering fitness problem in England and other things and so on, nobody. In fact, papers were writing ex-Super Eagles attacker. But now, Keshi has invited him again. We went back to Montpellier. He's doing well. They are second, I think, or first on the log. He's playing week in, week out. And now, everybody wants him. Nigeria is just like that proverb says, success, many relative, failure, and orphan. And it's not good.
And that is worrying. Now, this these are the kind of situations that the Nigerian sporting world is faced with. What can be done? You've said you've brought forth this suggestion, but really, I am thinking, do somebody really need to tell the government or the NFA all of this before they know that these are the kind of things that they need to do? Right, you've said that a lot of them are professionals and they play not only for the country, they have their own club, they play they're international players, so some of them can fend for themselves. What about those who are not able to fend for themselves? Maybe before their career ended, they were befallen by one injury or the other, and they couldn't save enough money to take care of themselves in retirement. What needs to be done to get this kind of structures in place immediately, especially with the kind of experience that we've had with Rashidi Yekini?
Yes, like I postulated earlier, the best solution to this rests with, first and foremost, instituting a kind of a welfare scheme that will actually take care of the interests of these players. Forget about the level of the attainment at any given point in time. The point remains that the moment we're able to do this, definitely all players will be in a better position to benefit from this particular scheme, whether you are playing locally or you are playing internationally or whatever your status may be. The moment we are able to realize that, look, even if it's a form of insurance scheme or whatever, that you need to save a little via with the FA or kind of moderating or coordinating, it would be nice to actually have a scheme like that that will guarantee them their future.
Okay, I'll just hold you on that from a thought, Austin, and I'm sure that there are many Nigerians out there and federal government. Kennedy, just in one word, I'm going to ask you this question. What can be done? Because the effect and the story of Rashidi Yekini's death and how he died is very disturbing and very controversial. But however, how can we correct the impact it has created in the Nigerian people, and how can we actually, readdress the negative impacts of what has happened in his very enabling death?
Yeah, first of all, charity begins at home, right? These athletes, these players especially, right? They have managers, people that manage their image, their game, everything. Let us start from there. While they are making all this money and while they are still active, their managers kind of advise them to be able to save for the rainy day, right? And then two, excuse me, the system too, which is the NFF, and the sports ministry, let us try to have a deliberate policy, on the welfare, just as we said before, like an insurance policy, like a life insurance, so that this time around they won't only their survivors won't only benefit from it after they are gone, but when they attain a certain age, let's say from now till you get to 50, from 50 you activate it and then you can have it and then use it to set up something to sustain yourself until whenever God calls you. I think those are some of the deliberate attempts that I think the ministry and the FA should make to help these players, because stardom gets into the head, and while it lasts, you might be in the cloud, and by the time you are back on earth, it might be too late.
All right, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you, and quite insightful responses. In fact, I learned one or two things that I didn't even know were in the offering before. Well, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians out there who till morning have gotten another side of the story. This was Inside Night, rather the interview on Rashidi Yekini, and we were joined by Austin Bolu, former image maker, NSA. Thank you for coming, sir. Appreciate your presence. Kennedy Okara, sports analyst, and thank you for coming. And of course, the first king Nigerian football to actually get a continental crown. May your soul rest in perfect peace. This is Kaakaki B, African Voice. We'll be back after this time out. Stay with us.
He spends all day rushing around.
Nowhere. It's just a bunch of prejudices about the different communities, but nothing substantial about the cause of the conflict. It is becoming expensive to have you there.
Of the show, and we're still talking sports.
Yes, well, so very sadly so.
Yes. Anyway, we've just concluded our interview segment, and now we're going to take you to the sports business studio, where we'll talk about the business of sports. And you would agree with me that if everyone in sports understands the business behind it, no sports person should retire into penury.
Welcome to Sports Business.
Once again, welcome with us, Sport Business, a program that keeps you on your toes, giving you understanding of how it is done globally. In spite of what is going on in Nigeria, we've told ourselves in Harley Sport International, we will stand out and do it right. We don't call it goat uncle because we want to eat goat meat. Godwin Spips Agbama, it's my name. Thank God it's a lovely day on this station, Sport Business. We'll be back for the Sport Business News. Hey.
Every day is not small money. The doctor, when he's concerned, my pocket is never afraid. Oh, well, I will do everything.
Welcome back to Sport Business News, and we'll take this one quite humongous, talking about the NASCAR just signed a deal worth $224 million to 2026, talking about a telecom giant, Sprint, and they say this will keep them with the NASCAR event to 2016. Great one. And let's relax you a little bit, and we'll come back for the executive guest segment.
Not just the trail, but the business in the sports. Sports business. X-ray the business in the sports.
Welcome back to the executive guest segment. Good enough, we still have with us a man who understands all the dynamics, and knowing that he's an engineer, he also knows how to break down the elements in proper perspective. Welcome with us, Engineer Tokumbo Oba.
Nice to be back again.
Always interesting discussing sports business with you.
Yes, actually. I think many people don't recognize that sports is a business like any other business.
They don't understand. They just think it's a gathering of some youths who run around.
And while they are thinking that way, some of those youths are earning more than their lifetime salary in one week.
In 1 week. Exactly. I watched the last American Super Bowl. 5 Nigerians involved. I mean, in the New England Patriots, we had 2 Nigerians. The New York Giants, we had 3 Nigerians, and Osi Mayora, one of the biggest Nigerian stars in American football. It's enormous, and what they take home.
What they take home, and even the whole process of managing. I like the fact that with sports you can learn a lot, even for your day-to-day business and how to run business. That's why, as a management consultant and as a trainer, I use a lot of sports analogies, because sports gives you easy to select examples of what happens when you manage resources well, when you manage human beings well, and also what happens when you don't do it. The repercussions are also there. They are obvious to everybody.
All right, today we're looking at a country that used to be a third world country. That toga has been dropped now because they have one of the most buoyant economy, and everything is working. And then their sport industry is superb. I mean, superbly run, generates a heavy return on investment, and they have almost on a daily basis, talents being churned out from the countryside, and you see everything working for them. In less than 5 years, they are hosting the 2 biggest sporting events in the world, the FIFA World Cup, and then the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, which is quite an achievement. And given that those things are not given out, even the whole process of struggling to host them is an enormous investment itself. To get to be allotted the FIFA World Cup, a lot goes into it. To get to be allotted the Olympics, a lot more goes into it. I mean, you've got to I remember watching just Sochi campaign for the Olympics, Winter Olympics, not the major Olympics.
Winter Olympics.
And it was like an advert every day on BBC, on CNN, on every major network, and it was wonderfully packaged advert. Meanwhile, the guys in Korea, I think who won the other one, were busy campaigning at the same time. It's not, to get it is a sign that your nation has gone somewhere.
You got to prepare for it.
You got to do the work. You got to do the groundwork to get there, basically. So it's a credit to Brazil, and it's usually an indication. Getting one of them is an indication of how developed you are, or how good you are as a nation in terms of handling issues. Getting two is more than an indication, is a confirmation. And actually, when you say two of the world's most sought after events, you must recognize that Brazil is actually hosting 4 events.
That's right.
We mentioned in the world ranking of sports, the FIFA World Cup is the most watched event in the world, followed by the Olympics. The third one is the Cricket World Cup. Of course, they don't play cricket much in Brazil, so they don't have much of a chance. But when you leave that, then you get to the Confederation Cup, which Brazil is also hosting in the year between in 2013. And then in between you have 2013 Confederations, 2014 World Cup, 2016 Olympics. I mean, what it also tells you is that they organized it. They structured the programs so that you're not having any 2 in 1 year. But they structured their setting to get to it. And the truth about it is that these are such big events that if the nation did not have capacity, you know, one of the things we do in Nigeria is that we dream big dreams about our size without growing the capacity to handle the dream. Now, if a 5-year-old boy is made to carry a 70-kilogram box, he will develop a neck problem. And that's part of, if these events were not well structured and being handled, they could cause any nation's economy to go under because they are big enough. But if they're well handled, which is why Brazil has worked out the spacing, they can actually boost the economy of the nation. That's
create employment, generate revenue.
The key is that they must be well handled. It must not be a case of we're just looking for a status symbol. No nation can afford to have these 4 events as a status symbol. They must be built on the fact that the nation itself can organize itself for performance. And to give Brazil credit, it has done that. Brazil as a nation, not just in sports, has, like you said earlier on, it's not a classical third world nation anymore. It's actually somewhere in between the first world and the third world. In many respects, it's first world. They still have issues around, although I always tell people that there is no nation that doesn't have issues. So being a developed nation is not a case of, I had someone say once that they say some economies are doing well but they are poor people. Being a developed nation is not utopia, that poverty is eradicated completely. It has never happened in any nation in the world, and for anybody to expect it to happen in Western time. But you can reduce the number, and what some nations call...
Even the Bible consent?
Yes.
The poor you always have with you.
and what some nations call poor, other nations will call wealthy. You know, there are some people who say they would rather be in prison in Britain than be on the streets in Nigeria, basically, because they get fed properly there. But that's a different ballgame. The point fundamentally is that Brazil has reorganized itself. Even when you talk about the fact that they keep on churning out talent, yes. I watched a few days ago Roger Federer having to play this Brazilian star in Miami, one of these ATP 250 events, Masters events, and the guy really took Federer for a run. Federer beat him in the 3rd set, 6-4. And the guy is good. Brazil has brought out wonderful tennis stars. They brought out great swimming stars. It's not just football. They brought out, their basketball team is phenomenal. Their volleyball team is good. Their motor racing is good. But why does all that happen? Because they're a structured society. They have not just big ideas of what they want to be. They've been working consistently over the years. I mean, and then you will even find even the way they bid for these events are not accidental. They know, they already have a calculation of what it will cost. Of course, anybody who's been watching sports recently will know that there's been a bit of controversy about the low pace of work that has happened, which was caused by a few other factors that came in, and that led to a clash between Brazil and the FIFA chairman. But if you look at it, you'll find out that Brazil's budget for the World Cup 2014 alone, excluding cost of security, is estimated to be around $15 billion. Translate that to Nigeria, that is a little bit more than our so-called expenditure of fuel subsidy. That is just for one event. But they know what they do it. Because you see, if you look at Germany also, when they hosted the World Cup, they spent about 13 billion. 2 billion on stadium, additional 11 billion on road infrastructure. Roads and infrastructure are permanent features, basically. South Africa, they estimated 5 billion on stadium, 5 billion was spent on upgrades of transport facilities. That's why in South Africa you get today, you can go from Johannesburg to Cape Town to Durban by train, and it's easy. They knew it's part of a national plan. You see, for you to, Brazil already has an estimation of how many visitors they're expecting during the World Cup. They're expecting 600,000 visitors. That's crazy.
It's a fun-seeking country.
It is, and I can tell you, Brazil is even already knows how many guests they're expecting. They're expecting about 600,000 foreign visitors. That is tourism on its own. If every foreign visitor that comes into Brazil drops $10, that's $6 million. And they're not dropping $10.
They will drop more than that.
They will drop more than that because they'll stay in hotels, they will buy food, they will walk around the place, they will buy souvenirs, and I can tell you that
they go to clubs.
So let's estimate that everyone will spend close to $1,000. That's a lot of money just for foreign visitors. That does not include mobile systems, does not include televisions, does not include everything. So they are aware. And on top of that, what Brazil is doing is actually killing many birds with one stone. The stadium used for the football will be available for the Olympics. They will be available for the Confederation Cup. All of these, actually, what they are doing is they're saying, guys, let's make it shows that they planned it. Let's make a bid for the World Cup, but let's also make a bid for everything else at the same time, so that we can create a synergy. And they are all getting this, each event is still bringing the same amount of money expected. And then they haven't just stopped that. What Brazil has done fundamentally is they've also brought in a lot of the private sector. They have a lot of course, to do that you must also have a private sector, which Brazil does. For Olympics alone, they already have as at now, and they will be having more, because this year is the year of the London Olympics. So the Brazil Olympics is 4 years.
Yeah, the other countries will switch.
But they already have $60 million worth of sponsorship towards the Olympics. They have private sponsorship towards the 2014 World Cup in branding the national team. It's already worth $30 million per year. They have financial institutions, banks that have a portfolio with total estimation of $55 million per year in Brazilian football sponsorship. They have sponsored. Brazil, of course, I said earlier when I talked about Brazil's volleyball team, which is, most people don't know that volleyball is the second most popular game in Brazil.
They are strong.
They are very strong, and they're very strong, both male and female. Yes. And you find out that telecoms are accounting for 20% of sponsorship deals, worth about $320 million for the 2016 Olympic Games already. $80 million of investment from telecoms in 2014 World Cup, $15 million per year sponsorship deal of Brazil. You could go on and on. What it means is that the Brazilian economy is designed to maximize the benefits of the World Cup. That's somewhat what it is. And that's an interesting thing. When you look at an involvement in sports as an investment, it changes your perspective. Our challenge in Nigeria is that we look at it as a distribution of national cake. So we have never invested in sports that has brought in returns to our economy and to the nation. It's instead become a problem. At the end of every major investment we've done, whether it is the under-17, under-19, under-20 World Cup, whether it was African sports festival, we've ended up looking for money. Where did the money disappear to? Because we have not, again, like I said sometime earlier on in a different setting, we have not made up our minds what we want to do. Anytime you do not make up your mind what you want to do. I watched cricket the other day, and it was an interesting game. The batsman played the ball onto his stumps and took himself out. But the commentator said his biggest problem was not the quality of the shot, but that he did not decide what he wanted to do on time. And once he could not make up his mind what he wanted to do, he could not get his bat into the right place. That's what's happening in Nigeria. If you cannot make up your mind what you want to do, then you cannot decide the right response that is required. I believe that one other thing that we need to challenge ourselves with in Nigeria is we have this, what I call ostrich mentality that does not celebrate what is being done better than you elsewhere. We go into a defensive mood. When you say to a Nigerian, look at the London Olympics, he says, yes, that's Britain. They are very well developed. You say to Nigerian, look at the Brazilian arrangement. He says, he tries to find a reason why he should not be compared with the Brazilian. But if that same Nigerian son should come home from school and tell his dad that, Dad, I came 20 in a class of 25. And the dad says, and the boy, dad says, how can you come 20? And the boy says that the person that came 25th is not a human being. How many fathers would accept that? But that is what we say to our nation. We say to our nation, accept mediocrity because it's unfair to make demands. The reality of it is, we should, if I had my way, these case studies should be emblazoned across our whole psyche. Brazil has done this. South Africa did this for 2010 World Cup. This other nation is doing this. These other ones are doing this. We need to start to say to ourselves, you are not doing well enough. You have the capacity, but so far you are not doing well enough. That's the only way you can now give the focus that you now go and study. Our sports people should study this. Our businessmen should study this. Our politicians should study this, and then use them as case studies to see how do we set a situation where we can maximize many things we can do. Brand these things, turn them into major earners for economy, and turn our economy into a growth economy. What we see in Brazilian sports is the secret why Brazilian economy is growing. It's not sports that's making it grow, but this is the way they've gone at it shows you why they are growing. We need to learn this and do it in our own economy too.
All right, sport business, if you just joined us, looking at how Brazil have used sports to boost their economy, and the economy is constantly on the upward swing. Can Nigeria do that? I don't know. Sometimes I really don't understand it, what government wants. The government is not even thinking about sports. It's totally out of their scheme of work, if there's anything like that. Finally, how do we, people who are in government, in policy making process and all that, they hardly see sports as an economic tool?
Well, it's not totally their fault. We've been psyched over the years not to see. We are more fans than organizers, and that's been the problem. So maybe sometimes it's good we're having a program like this. We need to find a way of, maybe those who know have not communicated well enough to many of them. Because to be fair to some of them, sometimes we blame our politicians, our government people. I must say that sometimes they're not to blame in terms of, they're to blame because they're in the kitchen. But they're not to blame because some of it is a product of their lack of know-how and knowledge and awareness of what possibilities are. And maybe what we need to do in the program is keep on highlighting cases like Brazil and hope that somewhere along the line we'll throw enough of a seed into the system. I don't always like to just point fingers away because that may not solve our problem. I like to hope that among them there are those who are interested enough in building the nation, but who have just probably never seen the opportunity. So I hope they will be watching a program like this, and they will be able to say to Sagbama, why don't you come and talk with us about what we can do? I know you're not advertising for that, but I'm free to say that because I'm not advertising for myself. But I'm saying they should be able to say to you, they should be able to say to others, come in and let's have a chat. What can we do? How can we build things from here? What can we even learn for other sectors? Once they can do that, then we have the potential, we have the capacity, but we must address the problem. If we don't address it for everything time.
Thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure having you.
Always mine.
We'll be right back after this break.
Not just the trail, but the business in the sports. Sports business. X-raying the business in the sports.
Wow, what a topic, isn't it? Brazil is a nation you really need to study in terms of sports. They have it all. They've won the World Cup 5 times, and who knows, they might just go for the 6th time hosting. And Brazil tells you that England has said football is about life and death. And Brazil would say if England says football is about life and death, to them it is much more than that. Can you beat that? God wins. Pete Sagbama is my name. By the grace of God, next week, same station, same time. We'll be back. Have yourself a wonderful day.
Well, that was quite sports business. Indeed.
Yes.
Insightful. Like I said, if you do not know how to do the business and sports, you would die a poor person.
And really, sports, the business of sports is a very, would I say, wealthy. Rich.
Very well.
If you know how to do your business, how to do your sports business, there is no reason why you should end up paying. Because if you look at what our international footballers get, the kind of money that they get, from sports or even from athletics, from whatever sports they're doing, it's not money that, that probably I will make in 3 months. They'll make it in just a few
hours.
Or a few hours, better still,
But so now that also brings my mind to foreign investors and, people who can support the Nigerian. Let's go back to football. Some people worry that because of the rate or the rate of the declining level of football in Nigeria, a lot of people are not encouraged to put money here because they say you put your money where your mouth is. So you imagine you put money here and we're 63 in the world and 12 in Africa. They wonder what profit is sort of help.
Remember the analogy I gave the other day. First of all, we have to value our own. Governments need to first pump money. The sports administrators need to first do what they need to do. Make the sport attractive for investors. Because you have to show them that, look, you're not going to regret your investment. You're not going to lose whatever. Rather, you will profit if you invest in sports. Because definitely governments cannot fund sports, especially football in Nigeria.
It's a large
exactly. But first of all, they need to spend money on making the sports attractive to investors. Show them that, look,
this is worth putting your money into. This is worth investing into.
It's going to be worth your while at the end of the day.
And I think that the way they can only make it better is actually also invest in their players. And of course, like we said, the young ones who are coming up, make more academies available, make more scouts available. And actually, it's not enough to just make the academies available. Give them an incentive to want to be patriotic, so that when we are playing international football, we don't start scouting for our old veteran players who will not even consider to play.
People need to be motivated, especially sportsmen. You need to always, it's psychological. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. So when you tell them you can do it, you make sure that they can concentrate on doing it. They don't have to worry about doing anything else, about money, about funding, about their family. About that is settled. So they concentrate on achieving their aims.
That's well, they say the business and sports. We're no sports analysts, but I think that is enough said.
We try. We try.
Oh yes, we do. I don't see that. All right, it's Friday, and like Sana said earlier, let your hair down if you have any hair at all. But for me, I'll say take care of yourself. Share with somebody something special. A smile, a laughter, a hug.
You sound like you're about to go, but it's not time to go yet. It's time for Pan-Africa.
Of course I know that. Yes, I'm just telling them that they should share a smile. And I believe weekend is the only time you have enough time to bond. So
indeed, so do your bonding.
Time for Pan-Africa. Stay with us.
Thanks for staying with us. Top of the second hour on Kaakaki, this thank God it's Friday edition of the show. Guinea security forces, I beg your pardon, Nigeria is ready to build a mutually benefiting relationship with the Republic of Rwanda in areas of space and communication technology. The Minister of Science and Technology, Okun Basi Ewa, said Thursday in Abuja when he received the High Commissioner of the Republic of Rwanda, who was in his office, to key into the current strides Nigeria has recorded in the science and technology sector. The minister expressed confidence that Nigeria is very critical and strategic to the partnership. The European Union has pledged its continued support for the international project of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The EU, while marking the 2012 Europe Day, also